Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 324.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you're here today simply because sometimes you guys say things to me, and I think today's guest is going to completely obliterate this particular excuse. You guys know that we're here to help you build your cash flow, start that business, and make things happen. But occasionally, we'll get an email or one of you says something to me like, "Hey, Jay, I'm too young to get started. Nobody's going to take me seriously. Why on earth would an investor give me money?" Well, I have a feeling that today's guest is going to help you with all of that thought process and more, simply because, well, he's done that, been there, and more importantly, he's doing some amazing things. What's interesting about him is that he's won a number of awards. Right now, we're going to talk about the Forbes 30 Under 30, but at the same time, he's got a new book. He's raised over $32 million. That's a lot of money for business. And he's started something that I think is going to inspire all of you to get up, get out there, and make something happen. Help me welcome Brian Wong. Brian, you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me on board.
I'm glad that you are taking the time to be here. So what I'm going to do, Brian, is that we have a standard question I tend to ask everybody the first time that they are here. Are you ready?
Sure.
So I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. So, you know, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, Black Widow, whatever. I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. Chief among them, occasionally we get dressed up and use our special skills and abilities to service our customers in various ways. Also, like a superhero, an entrepreneur starts somewhere. Superheroes start somewhere. Meaning, before Spider-Man was out there, he was just Peter Parker, right? He was just taking photos, doing his thing. And then one day he discovers he's got this ability from wherever it comes from, and then he goes out there to actually use it. My question to you is that in the same way as the superhero begins their origin story, before all of the awards, before your new book, the cheat code, before being able to start your company, before the VCs, before all the stuff that you've done, who is Brian Wong?
Yeah, I was born in Vancouver, Canada, which is a very beautiful town. Most people know it for its natural beauty, but kind of a sleepy town. It's comfortable. You can ski, and play tennis and golf in like the same day. It's just like a great outdoors town. I was a little annoying kid that played a lot of video games. I was very loud. I played a lot of Counter-Strike.
Nice.
Got called out in class for being the loudest one all the time. And I also played ice hockey growing up. Very cliche for being Canadian.
I was going to say, that's kind of normal, right?
It's normal. I mean, because Vancouver rains a lot. So you kind of have to pick an indoor sport. And it's either going to be basketball, which I'm not 6 feet, so it's not going to happen. Or hockey, which naturally I'm not even that buff either, but I was able to compete because I was quite agile and quick. So that's the sport I played growing up. Things started to it was gradual, sort of the growth, I guess, as a person. It started actually in grade 1. My teacher thought that I was spending more time teaching other kids in class than listening. And instead of getting mad at that, she said, "Oh, this is probably an indicator that you're gifted." An alternative term for someone who's got an inkling of intelligence, but you're not sure if it's an intelligence in the form of some savant-like or more sort of just pure intellectual horsepower. And so they decided to and had me get my IQ tested and a few other things tested, and they decided to have me skip a grade to grade 3. And then I went through a few more grades, and then grade 6, same thing happened. And I was tested again, and I skipped to grade 8, and then I skipped to grade 10, and then skipped to grade 12.
Wow.
And then by the time I had finished all of, sort of grade school, I was 13. And so I entered university at the age of 14. So it's video game playing, Photoshop crazy. I love Photoshop, and I loved and I still love it. I actually pirated a copy of it when I was 12.
Nice.
Started learning it on my own, and actually, what got me into Photoshop was the video games.
Oh.
So when you play Counter-Strike,
mods.
Yes, well, the mods, and you have these clans. And, these clans all have these really fancy sort of insignias and banners when you first join the servers. And my clan was like, dude, you should design this insignia. And I was like, yeah, it'd be really cool. And so I got Photoshop, Googled a bunch of tutorials, and boom, here I was. So that's kind of the upbringing. A lot of it, as you will hear, pretty much comes right together and brings us to today and who I am today. So it's really cool to be able to share that stuff.
So I guess then if I was to ask you, if you would advocate kids playing video games, your answer is absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a limit. I think for me, I was pretty uncontrollable. My parents had to make sure that I was directing the energy in the right way. But at some point, I was playing like 8 hours a day. I was like the top on 3 servers. It was pretty excessive. It also was an indicator that I had too much time on my hands because school was coming a little bit too easy for me. This is also why skipping grades was a good idea. And in fact, my parents, yes, I am Asian. Yes, my mom is a tire mom. Yes, she has me do a lot of things that most Asian parents do. But she didn't want me to skip grades. In fact, she thought that skipping grades would have an adverse effect on my social development. And to be honest, I'm pretty messed up. So maybe she was right, but I think on the outside I look okay.
There it is. I totally understand the interesting thing about your story is that my mom wouldn't let them. I didn't get the privilege of skipping grades. So my mom kept me in the grades that I was supposed to be in. So that's interesting to hear the other side of this exact same thing. So tell us then, we get the background, we understand. How do we go from playing more video games than you probably should, to a business of any kind? How did you get that first taste of understanding what entrepreneurship might be like, or even the desire?
Yeah, so it all came from everything I just mentioned. So I'll kind of put together the pieces here. So when I went into university, I knew how to design at that point, right? I learned Photoshop quite extensively. I was kind of designing websites and even things like book reports and science reports and everything that I needed to design for. And I was known as the kid in class with like the slickest stuff, right? It was always super cool looking, right? And honestly helped me get through school.
Okay.
The content could have been awful, but because the cover of it looked awesome,
presentation
the teacher
counts.
just gave me the benefit of absolutely. And that's one of the cheat codes, by the way, is make everything look good and people will pay more attention to it. And it's true. In fact, most human beings are very visually driven. Actually, all human beings are very visually driven. If you have eyes and you look at them and you're like, I want this. If this looks really presentable or well put together, I will give it the light of day, right? So anyways, that being said, So I was in university. I matched with a couple friends who happened to be passionate about web design as well. And there was a catalyst that brought me to actually ended up starting a company with those two. And the way it happened was through hockey. So I actually was playing hockey when I was 16. I broke my knee in an on ice hit. It was a knee on knee hit. I was in a wheelchair for a month and then crutches for a few months after. And when you can't move, you kind of have a few choices. One is you could play a lot of video games, which I was already doing. You could watch a lot of porn, which I was already doing, or you could start a company. So I decided to start a company. There you go. So that's honestly how it happened. I decided because I had nothing else better to do, and I couldn't move. My buddies and I were like, let's just start building websites for people. And at the time, we already knew that there was demand for this, right? So their family, friends, they were like, there's always those kids that that are building sites. And it's like, hey, let's ask Brian and his team, see if they can build us a site. And we started off building sites for I think $500 a pop. And at near the end of the height of the activity, we were building sites for $15K, $20K a pop. It was pretty great to see that grow. And that was my taste of entrepreneurship, because it was kind of the first foray into putting together a team and putting together proposals and servicing clients and dealing with revenues and accounts receivables and payables and just basic things that we really were great. Like, we're almost taking things we learned in the classroom and just doing it that night. It was actually really cool to see. So that was my first taste.
Just to underscore something, I want to know, at that point, what age were you?
Oh, 16. So okay, 16 good. Was when I started my first company. Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody hears that as we go through this.
and then I believe it'd be 18 to actually sign company papers. And so my dad had signed it for me at the time being. He helped us incorporate. And it was very convenient. My dad was also happened to be an accountant, had his own accounting firm. So a lot of that was he was also very instrumental in just helping give me the basics. And he was pretty good at maintaining a distance, right? Not being like, you have to do all the things you have to do. Like, he kind of let us figure it out, which is really great. And I appreciate him for that. So I studied business as my undergrad. So I did marketing as my major, which, by the way, just to address all of the misconceptions about marketing, it is an awesome thing to study at university, right? I think in business school, you have a lot of folks that seem to discount marketing. They think it's like, anyone can do it. And it's true, but anyone can do finance. Anyone can do accounting. Anyone can do real estate. It's great. But marketing, I think, was a great place for me to sort of address my creativity. Because as you remember, I had design in my background. So I really loved the visual component and the communications component of marketing, and then tie it to some core business principles. And all of a sudden, you have this really good combination. So I did that. And then I graduated so I have signed my background. So this is also the other thing that people don't really realize sometimes is I didn't do any engineering, but I learned how to do front-end development on my own. So I learned a bit of CSS and HTML and design. So kind of all of a sudden I had this sort of a builder toolkit, which is another cheat code, by the way. So I'm littering all these cheat codes along the way. The builder toolkit basically means you have to have some type of skill. You just studying business and being good at talking about business is useless. You need to have something that allows you to actually create something, right? You could be even being really good at writing. It could be really good at designing. It could be really good at coding. It could be really good at just something that allows you to produce. Because if you don't produce, you're just talking head and you can't start anything. Ultimately, when you're starting a company, you have to produce something from scratch, right? So, regularly you need to have that ability to do it. And if you rely on everyone else, like, oh, hey, here's what I think the design should look like, can you design it for me? That doesn't work really early on. So anyways, fast forward to 2009 is when I graduated. The economy was pretty bad, if you recall. And one of the things that I realized was I needed to get out of Vancouver. Not that I didn't like Canada, it's just that it wasn't the best environment for my interest, right? So if I wanted to be mining or forestry, and those want to be in mining and forestry. Like Vancouver's a great hub to be in. And I was like, I obviously loved tech because at the time I had already kind of had my taste of, building sites, and obviously through BBSs and forums, I had interacted with people all over the world, and had figured out that tech was the thing that I wanted to do. And Silicon Valley is this, fairy tale land that you hear about. If you've never visited, there's no idea. Like I had never been to California up until that point. And mind you, at that point I was 18. I'd never been. My foundations were really family. We didn't come from a privileged background, and so the most economical vacation was to go on a camping trip. So going to California wasn't something we had done. So I decided to take all the money I'd saved and decided to go around and travel a bit. So I took a bit of a half gap year. I went to San Francisco, LA, New York, Chicago. I emailed people as I could find. These are all cold emails. I had no idea who these people were half the time. They had no idea who I was. I knew who they were. Sorry. And I guessed their email addresses, and it was a numbers game. A bunch of people responded. One of them happened to be this guy, Kevin Rose, who started Dig. As you may recall, Dig was pretty hot at the time. It was kind of nearing the end, but it was still very hot. And I meet up and tell them about this tool that I had created called Follow Formation that happened to be built on projects as a data set, which was WeFollow, which was this thing that categorized Twitter users by category. And so he introduced me to their head of business development, and then I met up with them for breakfast in San Francisco one day. One thing led to another, and they decided, hey, you should come down and work at Dig. So I got a job at Dig in 2009. I didn't start working until January of 2010 because the visa took that long. In January, I moved down to San Francisco, and I started working at Dig. Now, 5 months later, in May, Dig hit a bit of a snag. Google had changed the algorithm, and Dig lost 16% of its traffic. All of a sudden, they needed to make a very tough decision to cut some staff. And yes, I was at the age of 19 and 5 months into a job. So it wasn't exactly the most ideal situation as well, because my visa. So you can imagine how, all of a sudden, kid packs up and leaves home. He's like, got a big job in the big city. And 5 months later, it's like, oh, no more job. So I was like, screw this, right? I'm going to find another business development job. I started looking around. And at the time, I was also doing a bit of traveling, and I came up with the idea for Keep. So that's the company I run today. And Keep was a very simple idea. I looked at people on their phones. They were playing games. And there are these really annoying ads. And I shouldn't even say past tense. It still is a thing. There's still a lot of very annoying ads on your mobile device. And I was like, there has to be a solution to this, because it is a problem. Why are there so many ads that are there that I've never met a normal human being that has ever looked at their phone and gone, ooh, look at this banner ad. I'm so excited to tap on this. Yeah, no, any normal human being would never do that, right? So
none that I'm aware of.
Exactly. So if you think about it, why is this stuff so ubiquitous if no one wants it? And I quickly realized the reason is because it doesn't matter if the consumer doesn't want it. As long as the advertiser and the publisher wants it, it will always happen. So they didn't have an alternative either. So that's what I set out to do, is create an alternative. And the alternative was, initially, the idea was in games you could level up, and instead of an ad, you would get a reward from a brand. Level up in a game and potentially, get a Starbucks latte or something.
Yes.
And the idea was tie a real reward to a virtual achievement. This is really fun. This is like a bit of a time machine. 6 years later, we're 6 years old now as a company, 100 people, 32 million raised, 20 million revenue. We're still doing the same thing. except we've expanded. So it's not just games, it's other apps. So you could be in a fitness app, you could log a run, and Gatorade could be there. You could be in a to-do list app, cross off a to-do, and the New York Times would be there because you had time to read the newspaper. So here's a free subscription. So there's a lot of it's now moved a lot more into offers and samples, and then digital goods as rewards. But it's a way to engage the consumer in a way that is actually value what they've just done. And the rewards are designed to be serendipitous, so the consumer doesn't expect it. So I started off with that idea with the games only. And the two folks that I brought on as my co-founders, one of them I worked with at surprise, surprise. So here's another cheat code. You find your co-founders with people you've worked with. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the best way, because friends are terrible co-founders. Because at one point you have to make a decision.
Hold on, say that again. Somebody who did not hear that, and they need to.
Friends are terrible co-founders. The reason, not because they're terrible friends, is because at one point you will, and I mark my words, you will have a decision between your friendship and the business. So you're basically asking to choose between someone's friendship or business at some point. So we want to avoid that, run into that. You don't have to go on the same train tracks as is awesome because they're people who you've produced something with. You know their work ethic. You know how they produce. You know how fast they move. You know how they are directed, and you know what motivates them. So that's who I brought on, and then his really good partner, and they actually started a game together. Ended up being my other co-founder. So three of us started this thing, and we built a prototype. It was a really awful one. It was probably the least functional prototype you could possibly imagine. It was the game that they built, and I designed a terrible version of what a reward game, and they smacked it together in Xcode in like a day. Used this to start pitching. So we went around, and one of them was this VC called True Ventures, who, as you may know, have funded folks like MakerBot and Fitbit, full of pretty well-known startups. And basically a week later, they said, we're interested in investing. I'll invest $300,000, which at the time at 19, I'm like, I'll take it because that's the most money that I've ever seen in my life. And at the time I had like $5,000 in my bank account, and my rent was like, $1,500 a month. So it's like, you can do the math. It's like, okay, let's take it. So we did, and we started building the company. The rest is, I guess, kind of history.
Nice. Now, with all of that being the case, because I just want to make sure that I point out a couple of things and that we talk about them. Because chief among one of the things that you said was your prototype was not the best. And I find that interesting because there's a number of would-be entrepreneurs listening right now who are trying to get things perfect before they start. I would love to hear your thought process on that. One of the most important things that you can do, that I can do, that we can do as entrepreneurs is, start. And often it's starting before you're ready. I know you think, but I don't know this yet, Jay, and I don't have this, and this resource is missing. And okay, that's fine. You never have it all together. It doesn't happen. It's kind of like having kids. You're not really ready for it until you just have to realize it's time to adapt or die. What am I trying to say to you today? I am saying, go, please, do your business. Start. It's not going to get any easier by waiting and delaying. If you want some insight on how moving at the speed of instruction, and more importantly, going with the strength you have, or dare I say, starting before you're ready, what that can look like for you, feel free to pick up a copy of my book, Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy. Go to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Again, cashflowdiary.com/free book. Pick it up, then read it. And for those of you who like the audio books of things, If you do that same thing, put your name and email address, you get a special offer on the audiobook. Again, cashflowdiary.com/free book. We'll get you taken care of. Now, let's get back to the rest of the interview.
I mean, we've heard this so many times, though. If you're not, if you're not showing out as your prototype, you've probably waited too long. You kind of want to push things out early and quickly, because you never know, the type of feedback you're going to get. You in your head might imagine the Taj Mahal, but you can't, invest all that time and energy into making it absolutely perfect so early, because it will change. It will change. And it's okay. It's expected for things to be a bit rough around the edges. In fact, when you look at even early investors, and I'm talking about the investment route, I mean, there's other folks I'm sure that are listening that want to bootstrap, and that's okay. Like, it's totally fine. Either way is fine. It depends on the business you're running now. Go into this for hours, but brief on this is your investors are trying to believe in you, believe in your team, believe in your perseverance and your ability to follow through. It's not necessarily the first thing you showed them.
Absolutely, and that's really what I was hoping you would say, because I found that to be very, very true. Now, you have distilled a lot of your experiences, because you've had a number of them, and we would say at a relatively young age. I've started this particular episode by mentioning the fact that one of the questions that I know I get, especially when someone's looking to start in real estate, oddly enough, is, "Hey Jay, I can't get I don't think investors are going to take me seriously because I'm too young." I would love to know if that was a thought that was ever in your mind, but more importantly, what would you say to that person who has that thought process?
Address it head on. Your youth is actually your advantage right now. You can thank Berg and Evan Spiegel are, that well under the age of 25 had already built multi-billion. Is basically what I'm saying. In the past, it's easy to just off the age piece, because you didn't have the access to knowledge or information or experience to get you where you are. But today, the timelines have compressed to a certain spot very quickly. So your youth is your age. The other thing is, people look at you, they expect you to be innovative. Like, I walk into a room, people want me to be the one who has all these crazy ideas. That's the whole point of being young. They want to hear that stuff from you. So it's actually an advantage. And you can say all you want, but if you have a great idea, you produce, and you have a great work ethic, and you're smart about it, they shouldn't question your age. In fact, people who consistently judge you by your age are probably not going to be successful in business that much longer. And I can bet on that. So you almost want to be selective. Be like, if people are going to be that obsessed about your age, cut them out of your life. If there are folks that will give you the light of day and don't even mention it, and especially parts of the world like Silicon Valley, age never comes up. It never comes up. Right? It's almost like it's not even a novel. It's almost expected, right? So there's both sides to the equation too. There's a lot of stuff out there that talks about, it's never too late to start as well, right? There are companies that were started when folks were well into their 40s. So it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, age is almost a non-issue. What I would say about age, though, is your mindset. I do want everyone to be young. And it has nothing to do with the number of years you've been on the planet. It has everything to do with how you think about things. Someone once said, you're only old if you think that yesterday was better than today, and you're young if you think that tomorrow will be better than today. And think about guys like Richard Branson. I mean, the dude's like, 70-something now, right? I mean, he's young. You think about his mentality, how he thinks about things. The guy's young. Right. And so I think you need to maintain that. If you lose it, you lose your sense of curiosity, you lose your advantage. So being young will always be your advantage.
I like that one. I will take that one with me for a very, very long time. Now, you've distilled a lot of your experience down into the book, The Cheat Codes, and it's a collection of, and if I'm not mistaken, 71 cheat codes. You've listed some of them, or as you've been talking, which is great. I'm curious to say, if out of the 71, because we clearly don't have time to do that, what would you say would be the top, I don't know, 7?
Yeah, so I'll quickly go through a few. The book, just to quickly explain it, is not advocating for you to cheat through life. The title was designed to be controversial.
Okay.
It's a nod towards cheat codes from video games. You and I know this is super obvious, but others may not. It's
That's
also
a
bit self-filtering. Honestly, if you don't even know what a cheat code is, you're probably not supposed to read this book. Not right. To be offensive or anything.
Right.
So anyways, it's designed to help you get into the right mindset and to understand the advantages you already have, and really to get people to do things. The challenge is, we have all heard this advice, follow your passion, like all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, I know, I've heard that 1,000 times before, but what do you mean by follow my passion? I can't wake up in the morning and be like, I'm following my passion now, right? It's like there has to be a step-by-step where you start to just do things
right
that help you find it, or help you just do it without even realizing you're doing it. And these are the cheat codes. So the first cheat code, it's one of my favorites, is follow your superpower. And to find your superpower, sorry. And what I mean by finding your superpower is there comes a point in your adulthood where you stop focusing on fixing your weaknesses and you strengthen your strengths. So when you are younger, of course, you get a B or C in math, and all of a sudden you get like 10 tutors thrown at you, and it's like, you can put as many tutors as you want on me. I'm never going to be a calculus expert. This is not going to happen. But there are things that I'm really good at. Like, I'm really good at getting people super excited about stuff. Like, I'm really good at communicating complicated concepts in a simplified fashion. These are things that I do really well, and I do that every day with investors, customers, employees, you name it. And I put all my resources to making that the best. So it's about energy allocation. You can spend all this time trying to make something that you don't like or feels like a chore really good, but it's just stupid. So that's the first favorite, not the first one in the book. The second is to tap into the power of email. What I mean by this is the key to everything you want in life, and that is, money, fame, power, good-looking spouse, whatever it is that you want, is all going to be achievable through cold emailing and cold LinkedIn adding. And you might think I'm kidding, but it's true.
I'm listening.
You can go on email and you can guess anyone's email. What did I mention about when I first went down to California, right? Like, I emailed a whole bunch of people. I do that every day. Actually, I just did this yesterday. At my flight down to LA, I was banging out like 12 cold emails for combination folks here, and then in Boston, I'm heading to Boston on Monday. And I've already gotten like 6 responses. I think my response rate is a little higher these days for other reasons, but in the early days, you'll get, maybe 1 out of 10. And you want to tell them that you want to learn from them and that you want to help them. Both things are critical. And helping them could come in the form of many things. Like, I think your mobile strategy needs a lot of work. And most of the time, these people already know this. They know they need help, but they may not have the person who's plugged in enough, i.e. you, being a young person, you are very plugged in, to help them with it. Or even give them some thoughts. And you have no idea how open-minded these folks are. Usually these very senior VP, SVP, C-level executives built their careers on being really, really good listeners and really nice people. It's true. You have the occasional
less than nice person.
That's the exception. That's the exception.
I knew that was coming. Yes.
That's the exception. So don't use that as a norm. Just because it seems like a lot of successful people are not so nice, it doesn't mean that that's the case. Most of them are actually very, very nice. Perfect example, like, I cold emailed Ken Chenault, CEO of Amex. 6 months later, they invested in Keep. I told them we needed to help them with their mobile rewards strategy. Membership rewards has not really done much in mobile. It's just the same thing. The opportunity to change the dynamic. We worked on a project with them. It's been great, but is like the nicest dude, super nice. Will give you the time of day if he's not on his jet, and just really, really great to see that type of stuff happen. Anyway, so cold email, I digress. Cold LinkedIn adding is like Tinder for business. You just find people, just add them. Now, I don't recommend you spam people that are irrelevant to you. You want to add people that you can add value to as well, and then you go from there. And if people accept your request, they've looked at your profile, they probably want to talk to you, and that's great. It's like Tinder. They match, they swipe right on you. Obviously, she wants to talk to you, so it's great. So just take that to your advantage. So that's the second cheat code, is tap into the power of email.
Okay.
The third is to never learn the rules. What I mean by that is not exactly not knowing the rules at all. It's more being selectively unaware of those rules. And I'll give you an example. So take poker. Let's say there's a game, and just like the table's got everyone's experience, knows everything up and down, and you got one person who's there who has no idea what they're doing. The others don't know. But that person will throw everyone off for at least the first 2 rounds, maybe 3. They have a temporary advantage just not knowing what the hell's going on. And that actually really helps in some industries. It's got a lot of established rules, because everyone's so busy thinking that everything else is working the way it's supposed to work, that when you're the one that comes in doing it the other way, you will have a temporary advantage. If you can hold on to that and convert it to something else, it's a really, really good thing. And so for example, I had no idea just how messed up some parts of the ad industry is. Not all of it is. Some parts are messed up. I had no idea. And if I had known all of that stuff, it would have probably prevented me from actually entering, because it's a lot to handle. So I think being blissfully unaware is actually a good thing. That's the third cheat code. The fourth, one of my favorites, is go to museums. This is actually one of the chapters. It says go to museums. The reason why I mention this is representative of constantly seeking inspiration. A lot of entrepreneurs forget that you do need a constant stream of inspiration and data to keep you innovative and keep you inspired. Museums are a cheat code in and of themselves. It's one of the most classic cheat codes. It's every possible great piece of creativity basically in one place. And these people could be all over the world. They could have cultural perspectives from anywhere, and you go there and boom, you get to see it. You get to see the product of what all of they were high, so you don't have to be high. So it's great. It's like fantastic things. So you get to see all this greatness in one place, and it's awesome.
Got it.
And so it's really important to again, keep yourself inspired. So there's a lot. I could go on.
No. I got it. I just wanted to get an idea of some of the things that you were, you were that were in the book, because some of the ones there, when you were talking, I was like, yeah, I've done that, or I didn't do that, or there's some others. And, I just like the idea. Well, I like the idea of cheat codes because I like video games more than I should. But that at the end of the day, I wanted everyone to know that this information is out there, and that there's something that they can do to begin to have their own advantage or advantages to being able to make
this
their
book
business
is not
work.
Designed to be an end all be all, like read the book and your life will be complete. It's more designed to be a thing that kicks you in the butt to just start doing things right away. And that is critical for an entrepreneur. You can't get caught in a pattern of inaction. It's much more dangerous when you're too busy having coffee meetings to ask people if what your idea is great, versus just building it and pushing it out to potential customers, or actually having something to show for it.
Indeed. Just go out there and sell it. Love it. Now, let me ask you this question. Many people who have been listening this far probably want to find out more, probably even want to pick up the book. What's going to be the best way for them to find out what you guys are up to at Keep, or find out what you're up to, or get a copy of the book?
Well, it's just at thecheatcode.com, or sorry, thecheatcodebook.com. And for me, you can find me on all social media. I'm pretty active on at Brian_Wong, Instagram at Brian Wong. And then you can find me on LinkedIn as well. So don't be afraid to add it.
No doubt. Now, as we wind down, I got a question for you, because I think I know, I want to hear what your answer is going to be, because I think it's going to be interesting. I'm almost certain that someone listening is in this particular category. They're standing in front of the superhero outfit store, if you will, Brian, and they're thinking, hey, I want to do this entrepreneur thing. Yet in the back of their head, they have this voice that comes up anytime they want to do something great, or anytime they want to be more than their present place. And for some of them listening, they're actually related to that voice, and it keeps coming up over and over and over again. But that idea won't leave them alone. They've been infected with the entrepreneurial spirit, if you will, but maybe they're still kind of stuck, or just still considering it, like you were talking about with the coffee meetings. My question to you would be simple. If you knew in the next, say, 24 to 48 hours that they would actually do what you were going to suggest, that they would physically go do it, what would you tell them to do?
Good luck, and realize it's not putting on a superhero outfit. Unfortunately, it's a lot harder than that. I know you're just saying that for effect, but this shit is hard. Pardon my French. It's not easy. It is not glamorizable. It is not something that people should be looking at as a way to show off. It is honestly, you're asking to beat yourself up, basically. And the thing that everyone goes for is that moment, though, once you've done something and everything you did was you and your team, and you were responsible for the outcome, and you wouldn't have had anything else, any other way. There are other situations that you work at big companies where an outcome is not you. It's like your boss takes credit for it, and it feels like shit. But when you're your own person and you run your own business, the freedom is immense. But it is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
I agree. That is all I'm going to say on that, for sure. Definitely, for sure. Well, here's what I will say. I am definitely glad that you are out there doing what it is that you're doing, and in this case, improving our mobile experience, because annoying ads are, well, still annoying, but who knows? Maybe one day they'll find a way to evolve and disappear completely. But until then, you're going to keep doing what you're doing, and I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you've written the book and inspiring individuals to do the exact same thing and go out there and use their superpower, if you will, for the greater good. I definitely appreciate, though, Brian, you taking the time to invest your knowledge and wisdom here with us at the Cashflow Diary.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? Well, it probably means that you need to go pick up a book, but it definitely means that you need to at least do something. I mean, from a cold email, you could begin doing something. LinkedIn added, you heard so many things that you could do today. You don't have to wait. You don't need permission, but you do need to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.